issues with her family. So as a substitute for Ariel, my presentation this morning is going to be significantly longer than it was originally planned for, which means you are going to have a bit of an extra bonus to go through some really quite interesting new AI ideation related stuff. But before we get into the presentation itself, I want to give you a bit of a background of the year we've just been through, because 2023 has been probably the craziest year I have been in this industry for this entire time. Right? We have had some crazy technological advancements, we have some crazy changes, we've had all sorts of stuff happening on social media. It has been one hell of a year. So let's give it a bit of a breakdown and go through some of the more serious stuff that has happened throughout the year and go through some of the more fun stuff that has happened throughout the year. So the very, very first thing that we got was Google announcing SGE, or Google Search Generative Experience. And it is rapidly approaching us that SGE will be deployed into the SERPs. And thus, you are going to need to make sure that you, at the very least, are testing your SERPs and your niches and your keywords in SGE. If you haven't already, you don't need any longer. You don't need a beta account for Search Labs any longer. Just go and sign up for Google US Search Labs and start using SGE right now. You just need to enable and toggle that to be enabled. Once you've got SGE enabled, then you're going to want to be going through all of your SERPs, all of your keywords, all of your niches, looking at competitors, looking at brand queries, looking at everything to see how SGE is going to affect your website, how it's going to affect your bottom line. If you're content oriented, it's going to affect you a hell of a lot more than if you're going to be doing things like local SEO or doing things like e-commerce. So you're going to be wanting to make sure that if you are going to be more affected than the average person, that you are in the best possible position to be dealing with what SGE is going to be affecting. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you see what it's affecting in the first place. And that's going to be by signing up for SGE and testing out all those keywords. Then Google released very, very controversial updates this year, right? There were several updates that hit some very, very good websites and people were quite pissed off. There were also updates that benefited a lot of websites. There is this amazing website that a lot of people in the SEO industry are talking about, which is lovethemaldives.com. That website has been seeing upticks in every single algorithm update this year, and it has not slowed down whatsoever. And that is a perfect example because it's basically just AI content spam. And the majority of the time, it's not even feeding stuff that's really relevant to the core topic on the Maldives. It's just ranking for a broad range of travel related keywords. And I think the last time I checked, it was doing something like 1 million visits a month on Ahrefs, which is absolutely incredible. Next up is something that I think kind of scooted under the radar for a lot of people in SEO. And I think it kind of affects what some people don't fully understand in SEO. But Google released a climate impact report for 2023. They release it every single year, where it essentially shows you all of the different information that they have been trying to put together around how they're going to better their impact on the environment and better their impact on climate change. The very first thing they announced was that they are reducing crawl frequency and they're reducing their crawlers on your website, specifically for refresh crawls. So that specifically means that if your page has already been crawled and they want to refresh and update that crawl again, they are stopping how many times they're going to be refresh crawling your website. So that means that people who are using cloaking tactics, AI content, all of this mass page stuff, are going to have reduced effectiveness or reduced efficacy because Google aren't going to be crawling your pages as much, and they're specifically not going to be recrawling pages as much. So especially expired domains, age domains, they're slightly weaker than they were before. Jake Ward also put out one of the most incredible threads I've seen in SEO. It got the attention of everybody in the industry and everybody outside the industry, to the point that Emmett Shear, the former CEO of OpenAI and the former CEO of Twitch, yes, he was only the CEO of OpenAI for about 2 days, but he still was the former CEO of OpenAI. He got even his attention and set him off on Google, saying that Google have been promoting this terrible tactics and that it's all Google's fault. And Jake Ward is essentially just playing the game, and you don't hate the player, you hate the game, right? Then John Mueller blocked everybody on Twitter, and apart from me, it seems, which is pretty incredible. automation became more acceptable, right? For a long time, especially in the white hat and the corporate kind of SEO zones and entourages, automation was almost seen as black hat and kind of negative and against the grain and unethical and things like that. Whereas because of AI and because of all of these new kind of tools and technologies, and because of Google changing its stance on things, nowadays automation is 100% acceptable. And in fact, in the corporate and the white hat worlds, it's almost encouraged at this point, which is quite an amazing change, almost a 180 change really, from last year when we were dealing with the same levels of technology. And finally, Google Discover, the Google Discover bug made everybody a traffic god, right? Everybody on Twitter I was seeing was saying that they were getting 10,000 visits a day from Google Discover, and that it was all specifically to do with their magical formula that they'd figured out how to rank with Google Discover. I don't think it was really specifically down to anything aside from this Google traffic bug. And I think that that has kind of formulates in the real world where all these people who are seeing all this traffic have kind of lost all of that traffic now, and that it was just down to this bug, and that a lot of the things that people are doing, they don't actually know what it's affecting, and that I don't know a single person in SEO that has got any idea of what Google Discover is actually going after. Yes, there are checkboxes that you can make sure just to get in Google Discover in the first place, but there's nothing concrete about what are actual signals to be able to get more traffic from Google Discover in the first place, or re-optimize your pages to be able to get even more traffic from them. So that's kind of my roundup for SEO for 2023. And if you thought that was a great introduction, it was, because that's only the beginning and the kind of prelogue to my main presentation. So my main presentation for you today is titled Unstoppable SEO. And we need to kind of break down the meaning of unstoppable first to give you a background of why I'm going to be building this. But first of all, let's talk about Google. Because a lot of people, and a lot of people in SEO especially, have been saying that Google is dying. And I don't think Google is dying. In fact, if you look at the data, they're actually getting more searches, especially in regions like Southeast Asia. They're getting more searches than they ever have done before. Google isn't growing, Google isn't dying, other channels are growing, right? So TikTok search is at all-time highs, Amazon search at all-time highs, YouTube search at all-time highs. Even Wayfair, which is a specifically online platform for home furniture, they've now implemented their own PPC system into their search algorithm because that's how important search is to them. That they have vendors like the same with Amazon FBA. You have Wayfair vendors that can bid on search keywords to try and get their products higher in Wayfair. That's how big these other search engine platforms are getting, that they're implementing their own ads programs into them. So this is why you really, really need to be focusing your attention as much as you can on other channels, other networks that are actually significantly easier, significantly more efficient, and significantly more affordable to rank in the first place, and could actually generate a higher ROI than if you're ranking in Google. I would rather rank for Peloton on Amazon search than rank for Peloton on Google search, right? Because you're going to be making a hell of a lot more sales. The conversion rate's going to be higher on Amazon than it is on Google. A lot of people are going to be searching Google for informational queries. Everybody searching for Amazon is searching to buy. They have buyer's intent because they're on an e-commerce platform to begin with. So you have a higher ability to be able to search on these platforms, find out why these things are ranking, reverse engineer and optimize those things. And it's significantly easier to do that with these platforms than it is with Google, because Google's getting so complicated, it's getting so overdone, it's getting all these weird kind of randability factors and randomization factors and things that a lot of people aren't taking into consideration. And in my opinion, we need to start looking at search engines, and we need to start looking at other channels that are far easier to manipulate and far easier to grow on than Google is, because Google is just doing so many things that are anti-competitive, anti-creator, and it's kind of coming out in all of these antitrust lawsuits that Google has been thrown at by the US government recently. So, onto the term unstoppable, right? Unlike most of the words in the English language, we didn't steal unstoppable from another language, right? We didn't steal this word from another one. It's actually an evolution of the English language in the first place. So the unstoppable is an evolutionary word, which means it comes from the evolution of language. And being unstoppable itself means you are an evolution of a person or a being or a company or whatever it is you're going to be doing. So in regards to a person, most people think that an unstoppable person is physically unstoppable, right? I'm running at you and you cannot physically stop me, but that is not the case, right? The definition for an unstoppable person is somebody who possesses a remarkable degree of resilience, a remarkable degree of determination and effectiveness in pursuing their goals. Does that sound any type of familiar to somebody who is trying to achieve what they want to achieve in SEO? Because these are the exact character traits you are going to need, especially in the modern era if you're doing Google SEO, and especially if you are trying to achieve a diversified and strong and enabled business that is kind of protected versus the world and the economic factors that a lot of businesses unfortunately have been susceptible to over the last year, especially in SEO, especially in agencies, content game, that kind of thing. So, A, becoming an unstoppable SEO. How do we achieve it? Well, we've already been told the definition of unstoppable, so let's use that to basically turn into what we need to become. So the very first thing, being resilient. How does being resilient translate to being an unstoppable SEO? Very, 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 very simple. Have you been hit by an algorithm update? Yes. Don't go down in the dumps. Be resilient. Be focused. Be planning what you need to do next. Don't focus on what has already happened. You always need to be moving forward. You never need to be focusing on the negativities of what already happened. You want to be focusing on moving forward and being resilient and adaptable to where you need to be. Next is being determined, right? Sometimes Google is very schizophrenic. They might like your page this day and not like your page the next day. And that can be very, very off-putting for certain people in SEO and very detrimental to a lot of campaigns, right? There's a lot of emotion involved in SEO and building out your websites, especially if they're your own personal brands, especially if they're in your hobbies, especially if they're your personal project, especially if they're your family business. All of these things can be very personal, very emotional to people, and being determined in the face of that emotion, being determined in the face of those negativities is where you're going to be pushing for in the future to be able to be a better and unstoppable SEO. Next, we're going to be being effective. So effective is very, very simple, right? Every single task that you do should have an end goal that has an effect, right? So if I'm doing keyword research, I'm doing it for the effect that I'm building all of these pages that will then be able to rank my site based on topical authority. Every single thing that you should be doing should have an effect that can be tracked and determined at the end. And you can see how effective you actually are by tracking the results of your tasks and seeing which tasks are the most effective, and thus you're wanting to maximize those tasks and finding the tasks that aren't as effective or potentially have a negative or a neutral effect. Those are the ones that you're going to be deep diving into, finding out where you can make improvements, how you can make that process more effective and more efficient. Then we want to have an ROI focused mindset, right? This is the number one thing that I preach in SEO the whole time. Everything should have return investment. If I spend $100, I want $1,000 back. If I spend $1,000, I want $10,000 back. That's the simplicity of it. All you want to do is make sure that you have an ROI focused mindset. And if you're making an investment here, then I tend to try and off-put that investment with a almost opposite case over here. So I always try to maximize my niches. I always try to maximize my diversity, and I always try to maximize my return on investment. And finally, you want a money hat mindset, right? Money hat is just the way everybody should be focusing on. You shouldn't care if it's white hat, you shouldn't care if it's black hat, you shouldn't care if it's grey hat. You should be caring about whatever the hat is that is going to lead to the best results, the safest results, and the results that are going to make you the most money come payday time. That's it. Those are the 5 core traits to becoming an unstoppable SEO. Now, that does not mean that you have an unstoppable campaign. So, we're not only going to be building an unstoppable SEO, we also need to build an unstoppable campaign. And a lot of people are going to be thinking that it's a mentality thing, it's all of that. No, I have a specific type of campaign that you can run that becomes unstoppable. It becomes so high ROI that it is almost unbelievable, and it uses all of the new technologies that we have access to today and the technologies of tomorrow that are going to improve this process, improve the efficiency, and improve the output of these campaigns. So, we are going to need to create a super piece of content. Brian Dean calls it a skyscraper piece. A lot of other people have lots of other words. I call it a super piece of content. This literally just means a very generic piece of content. If you're playing tennis, it might be a guide on how to play tennis. I'm talking a 15,000 word mega piece on exactly everything they need to know. It could be AI generated, but you're going to be wanting to have some kind of a human expert editing it to make sure that it is 100% accurate, because we're going to be using this base piece for every other part of our marketing, every other channel, everything we're going to be building from here on out. And this style of marketing is only going to improve as AI improves, as technology improves, as our tools improve. So once you've created that one piece of super content, we're going to use that one piece of super content to then create variable pieces of content from that singular one piece using AI and using AI tools. Then we're going to distribute it across multiple channels. We're going to cross over channels to make sure that every single channel is interacting with each other. And bear in mind that even if we're not marketing on search engines, a lot of the marketing that we're doing that has these channels generating traffic, generating user engagement, that can then have a lead-on effect to your SEO. There was a very, very large leak from Google where it showed that Google has got user engagement signals as one of the main ways that they are doing SEO and one of the main ways that they're reinforcing their knowledge base and their link base and all of this kind of link graph and things to make sure that that is the accurate case. So making sure that you have got those user engagement signals from these crossover channels will actually impact your SEO campaigns later on anyway. Then we want to promote it via multiple channels. So if we have a YouTube video that we posted from this one piece of super content that then got created into a YouTube video, we want to then promote it via all the other channels that we have as well. So all of our social channels, all of our email lists, all of that kind of stuff. So that gets user engagement. It then creates more searches, more user engagement. The channels get recommended, the video gets recommended, all of that kind of stuff, right? It's all about crossover channels, multiple channels, making sure that everything's engaging together, and then it's relaying over each other, and then it's be able to generate traffic for other channels just because it's engaged with that channel. And then we're going to be doing retargeting. So we're going to be doing pay-per impression retargeting. This is very, very important if you're doing any sort of an offer. If you're doing SaaS, if you're doing e-com, if you're doing local, if you're doing lead generation, anything like that, this is going to be the most important part of the process, because we're going to be able to generate all of this traffic that's going to be niche relevant, highly impactful, audience regeneration, all this kind of stuff, but it's going to be going to organic pieces of marketing, organic pieces of content that we can't necessarily directly extract value from. The way you directly extract value from it is any visitors that went onto that landing page from those channels then get retargeted with ads over and over again until they actually buy off you. And it's because you're paying per impressions, it's so cheap that you end up paying like $10 per 1,000 impressions, $7, $3 per 1,000 impressions, that kind of price. And you can make massive ROI off visitors that have already seen your brand, already visited your offer, already been on your page. And using that retargeting is then going to be able to get any sales that we haven't been able to pick up using this normal channel marketing, and just making sure that we're flooding them with all of the ability to be able to make that purchase and be able to translate into real world monetary value for us. But it's still one of the most important parts of the process. And then finally, we use lead magnets across all of our organic channels, right? If you don't necessarily, or you can't necessarily find a direct way to promote your offer, direct way to promote your product, that kind of thing, then the easiest way is to just put lead magnets all over the place. Have a free ebook, have a free podcast, have anything that you can offer people to put their email in, you build that list, and then you do the same thing with retargeting, just send them offers repeatedly until you make money out of that list, right? Okay. So now we have that created long form piece of content. This is where we're going to be moving into our multi-channel marketing. And to do that, we have to have this long form transitioned and turned and generated into other pieces of content. So how do we do that? There's various AI tools that we're going to be using to do this. I won't go through all of them, and I'm going to show you how to automate all of it a bit later on. But we're going to take that long form post, and we're going to turn it into individual short-form blog posts that are going to rank for various individual keywords and potentially also pick up social traffic, all of that kind of thing, PAA, Q&A, everything related to these short-form blog posts that one long-form post doesn't really answer the query for specifically, or doesn't specifically answer the topic that you're going after, right? It's more of a generic piece, and thus you need a specific tiny piece that is going to be related to that individual keyword. So we're going to make that one long-form post, and we're going to split it into different posts. And the easiest way to do that is using something like Claude, or when you have the new 128K context window with ChatGPT, you put the long-form post into it, and then you put the keywords that you want to be able to output content for for based on that long form post, and it will then create articles for each of those keywords. Bear in mind that if you're using something like ChatGPT, it might only do the first keyword or the second keyword or the third keyword, right? You have to make sure that you, right at the end of your prompt, you put this is going to live production. You need to complete all of the processes or all of the training tasks, and thus it will force the AI to output everything that you are trying to output. Bear in mind, the bigger you have, or the longer piece of content you have, the less the output will be, the less good the output will be, the less quality, the lower quality the output will be, because the more text you input into these AI models, the more degradation you have of these models. So the bigger kind of context they have, the worse output you're going to get. So you want to make sure that your long form piece is as detailed as possible, but that it's going to be as comprehensive and kind of compounded as possible when it goes into AI in the first place. So we're then going to use AI to turn long form into the long form post into long form video. We're then going to use it to turn it into short form videos. We're then going to use it to turn it into images. We're then going to use it to turn it into infographics. We're going to be using it for all sorts of different new pieces of content that this did not have before. You can even turn your long form posts into AI voice assets. I have recently seen people creating fake podcasts where they get scripts of different voice AIs and then play them against each other as if it was a real podcast. And you can then create AI avatars and all sorts of things to engage with these stuff. And it can create this really real looking piece of content that looks almost like a real podcast, but it's actually just AI voices talking to each other with some like cat emojis and things, right? It's pretty insane where this technology is going to. And bear in mind, all of this stuff you can do right now with various tools, but it will only get better with the months and years ahead. Generally, I'm speaking in the next 6 to 12 months, it's going to be absolutely insane in comparison to what it is right now. So now that we have all these pieces of content, we have our infographics, our small videos, our images, we have our AI voice assets, we have all of this stuff. We need to distribute this content over specific channels. So what are those channels? The first one, obviously, is Google. Then we have LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter/X, Reddit, Pinterest, and yes, even Bing. Bing is growing massively, and if you're in any niches where it is older than 65, Bing should be one of your primary targets for that audience. And the RPMs, the traffic values, all that kind of stuff is absolutely insane from Bing. It is significantly higher than it is from Google. It's just that the volume of traffic is lower. So now that we have all of this, all these channels, all of this content, all this stuff, you can actually automate the entire thing. You don't have to create the long form piece of content. You don't have to create anything. You can create all of this, all of these assets, all of this content from a single prompt and using Zapier to automate the entire thing. So how do you do that? First of all, you need the prompt. So it can be a single line of text, it can be a bigger prompt, it can be multiple sentences. It depends on what your prompt wants to be. But essentially, you need to create that long form piece of content. So the more you're going to be putting into that original prompt, the better your long form output is going to be. And yes, you can even use things like GPTs and stuff to create stuff by uploading knowledge and all sorts of things. But with the new 128K context window, I think the long form output from ChatGPT will be quite good. Claude right now seems to be slightly better, especially with the 0.1 version that they recently came out with. But we're going to use that prompt. We're then going to put it through ChatGPT or Claude using Zapier. That's then going to create a long form output that is going to go back into Zapier that we can use for our distribution against channels. So once we have that long form output of content, we're going to distribute it to multiple AI tools to then create the different pieces of content that we need. Like I said, the voice assets, the infographics, the images, the long form, the short form videos, the long form videos, the short form blog posts, etc., etc. We're going to need various different AI tools that almost all of them will be able to plug into Zapier via either connections or Zapier actions or Zapier automations. And you're going to be able to then distribute them to all of these channels. And once you have that information back, you're then going to be able to have those specific assets. Now, a lot of people are going to be asking me, well, aren't certain tools in Discord? Yes, Zapier connects to Discord. For example, you can use Zapier and a Zapier action via Discord to send a prompt via DMing to the Midjourney bot. And then you can use the same Zapier to retrieve that image file back from the Midjourney prompt once it has executed it. Bear in mind, it might need a delay. So if you immediately ask it to retrieve the file, it will retrieve the file at the 0% rendering, and you actually need it to retrieve at the 100% rendering. So you might need to put a delay in the action there. Also, Zapier can then distribute the content too. But we want to make sure we have different outputs and different actions and different automations for the output and the distribution. That's because some of the outputs aren't going to be very good, right? You're going to need VAs, you're going to need somebody, some human, you're going to need some editor, somebody to edit those outputs specifically before they're distributed to channels. Otherwise, you're going to have these distributions of content that aren't going to be up to scratch. They're going to be no good. They're going to be all sorts of text wrong, images wrong, even the branding. You could have other competitors' logos on there. It could be a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's why I have the Zapier create all the outputs, but the distribution is a completely separate action that I can then put those outputs into the distribution and have Zapier output it. But that's because we want VAs for quality control, right? As I just said, we need somebody to make sure those outputs are up to scratch, to make sure that they're good enough to actually be distributed across our channels, especially if you're doing this for client level campaigns. You're going to be wanting to make sure that the output on every single output is up to scratch. And the only way you're going to do that is by having some kind of human quality control to do that in the first place. And generally, the easiest way to do that is hire a VA. You can use them to improve scripts, prompts, publishing, image editing, video editing, audio editing, all sorts of things that you can do with these VAs. And we use a service called Remote Staff Seeker. They're based in the Philippines. They're owned by a lovely couple called Adam and Daisy. And they will give you pre-trained VAs for $800 a month. So that means they're pre-trained in keyword research or on-page or link building or editing, video editing, image editing, all of those kind of things. But they can pre-train, so you don't have to do anything with them. You just tell them, hey, you need to check the outputs, do this, match what we need from our document of this logo, this branding, this text, this niche, etc., etc. They'll control the outputs. Once they're happy with those outputs, you can either give them the go-ahead to just publish them immediately, or you can give them the go-ahead to send them to you to make sure they're up to scratch, and then you can go ahead and distribute them via Zapier. So you don't need to be distributing them manually. Again, some people like doing it. I don't. I like to be as efficient as possible, and thus we can use another separate automation and separate action to distribute all of these outputs via our channels on Zapier. So this is all now, but the future looks very fucking scary, to be honest, right? The future is getting to a point where all of this automation, all of this stuff will be done by a single AI. And it's not really a single AI. It's going to be multi-model agent teams that are going to be controlled by a single, generally conversable, as you'll see in there, AI. So essentially what you will have is you will have one model that is an AI model, that is a image generation model. You'll have one that is a text model. You'll have one that's a coding model. You'll have one that's a video model. You'll have all these specific models that are trained to do what they're trained to do. And then you'll have one model on the top that can converse and control all of these models, and then put all of their training together and be able to say, hey, look, this coding model has said this, but we need to add the text from this text model to your code, and he'll be able to combine them via talking to both of them at the same time. Now, this is all called AutoGen. There's a paper that this image is taken from. You can just Google Microsoft paper AutoGen. It will come up. But this isn't even the most scary part about it, right? Cody is the most scary part about all of this. This AutoGen is being able to converse with multiple agents doing multiple things. Cody can take different outputs from any sort of an output. That could be a video output, an audio output, an image output, a text output, any output, and it can combine those outputs into one output. So it could take a AI-generated image, it could take an AI-generated audio clip, and it could turn those two things into an animated video file. And right now, it's not that great, but give it 6 months, give it 12 months, it's going to be scarily efficient at what it can do. So I would not be surprised if Cody and AutoGen combined start taking away jobs from agencies, start killing off certain companies, start really changing the game for the digital marketing and the digital landscape in general. So these two technologies are by far the future of this entire kind of strategy to be able to distribute content at scale very efficiently, very affordably, and be able to generate a massive ROI like you've never been able to do previously in this years. So how do you put a value on all of this? How do you make sure that you're actually going to be worthwhile to do all this? How do we figure out our return on investment? Well, number one, like I said, what would previously take an entire agents level team now takes one line of text. Yes, the output right now isn't going to be the same as an agents level team, but like I said, give it 6 months, give it 12 months, it will be to that level. and it will be from a single line of text, which is absolutely incredible and scary at the same time. This will only be continued to get better, and 2024 will be a wild year. The tools, the improvements, the technology, the improvements, everything is going to be a game changer. This will change the game. It already has done it, already is doing it. And if you aren't playing catch up, you're going to be left in the dust for people who are going to be able to do these content marketing campaigns and these SEO campaigns and these unstoppable campaigns at scale like we have never seen before. Minimum spend into maximum ROI, right? I could get a single line of text, use about 50 cents of AI credits, and be able to output all of this content information, and it cost me 60 cents to be able to output all of this stuff. For that kind of an ROI has never been seen before. It's absolutely scary, it's absolutely unbelievable. Likewise, minimum input now creates maximum output. There's been no other point in history where you could write a single line without paying considerably more money to other people and things to be able to have this sort of an output. Especially with the 50 cents, the 60 cents pricing for all of this, it's absolutely absurd. And finally, diversity and efficiency will protect you. So essentially, being able to make sure that you have diversified markets, diversified offerings, diversified niches, diversified services, all of this kind of stuff, and the efficiency market is going to be able to protect you because other competitors aren't going to be nearly as efficient as you are, especially if you're using the same technologies as I've described today and using the same process as I've described today. It's going to be able to protect you versus the future, it's going to be able to protect you versus competitors, and in fact, you might be able to be the ones that are upsetting the market, you might be able to be the ones that are upsetting competitors, cash flow and revenue, and potentially putting even your competitors out of business by doing something like this. And ecom is even better. If you're just doing content and affiliate, if you're just doing offers, local, lead gen, listener stuff, ecom makes it 10 times more valuable because you can easily create content around a niche that generates traffic and then retarget ads at them with the products that you know they're already interested in because they engage with your niche relevant content. And the acquisition of that channel and that channel costs is tiny in comparison to a PPC campaign where you might be paying $1 or dollars or even tens of dollars per click. You now spend $1 to generate all of the clicks, right? It's absolutely crazy. And then a little bonus tip for your campaign. So because Ariel unfortunately couldn't make it today, I wanted to make sure that there was some additional bonus and some additional tips for all of you to go back with today. And so I'm going to go through using AI for ideation. And ideation is something that has been a thorn in my ass for a very long time, generally because when we were trying to do scaled link building campaigns, coming up with 250 guest post titles for a concrete business was pretty fucking difficult, right? But now it's very, very easy. You just use AI tools, you just use summarization tools, use tracking tools to find it. You'll notice on the right here that from Exploding Topics by Brian Dean, I took their micro wedding SERP because it has grown from 2019 to now by 680%. That means, and I'm going to put a lot of that down to that pandemic, but unlike most post-pandemic trends, we're actually seeing a continual rise in micro weddings because I think people have seen how good they are, how affordable they are. There's all this economic crisis going on, cost of living crisis. Everything's happening at the same time, and thus, micro weddings are a very affordable, very easy way to kind of make the traditional $100,000 cost of weddings a lot cheaper while still having the same kind of intimacy and valuable feeling that you get with your family and friends at your wedding. So this is a very, very quick example. We just went on to Exploding Topics. I found one of the first ones that was on the top 20 page of their trending topics, and I took it. We're going to be finding trending topics for digital PR. So this is kind of the ideation for this specific example. We're going to be using this for a digital PR campaign. We're going to use ChatGPT to combine the trending topic with your niche. And bear in mind, you can use other AI tools like Claude or something. It's up to you. So we're going to start with the prompt. You are building a digital PR campaign for a photographer. The current trend of the year is micro weddings. Combine these two topics to create ideas to use to pitch to journalists and publications on stories they can share, with our photographer website being the source. And of course, you can enable things like Bing browsing or Bing search and actually put the website in there so it can start referencing your website as the source or as the name and things like that to make it even better. Now that you have that prompt in, there's gold in literal seconds. So straight away, it's giving me tips around, I could create a photography tips piece of content with capturing love in small settings, which is a fantastic name for what we're trying to achieve. Then we have photo essays, a year of micro-weddings. Then trend analysis, real wedding features, expert roundtables, all sorts of fantastic ideas for piece of content, piece of digital PR that we can create around micro weddings that are going to promote our photography business for our client. Bear in mind that you can ask it to give you even more specifics, right? Let's say you really, really like number idea 8 or number 7 or whatever it is, that specific style of idea, then you want to create more ideas around that, right? I'm lazy, I'm efficient, right? So I just asked it to choose the best idea that it thought from those 8 suggestions that it gave me, and then give me more ideas on that digital PR style. And it did. It chose photo essays as its best idea, which I think actually for photographers and for a very visual engaged audience that we're in at the moment, you know, think of TikTok, Instagram and Pinterest being some of the biggest social networks right now, generally because they're visual based networks. Photo essays are going to be a fantastic way to be able to promote your business, promote your site and get digital PR, get links, the whole lot for it, right? And you can actually use it as a multiple asset within your AI. So you could turn photo essays that you can create using AI into video assets, into long form content assets, into short form video, into infographics, all sorts of things that you can do from a one piece of photo essay that you can then use, like I said earlier, all the other AI tools to distribute all of that along to the other areas. And then you can even have it find examples for you of competitors doing this. So within your prompt, if you're using ChatGPT, make sure that you ask it to use Bing browsing to find examples, because that then uses Bing's bot rather than ChatGPT bot to go and start searching the internet for all of your related pieces of content. And immediately it came up with a Bellwether Events micro wedding video, which talked about her own micro wedding held in 2020 at a chapel near Georgetown University, talked about the pandemic, had 23 guests, all of this kind of stuff. And it's a really great way to just find source piece of content that did well, that you can use as examples to either create your own piece of content or to pitch to clients. And then you can ask it to give you even more specifics. So I've asked it in this specific case to find more specifics around the actual micro wedding, so for photo essays, and it's come up with seasonal series, destination focus, cultural celebrations, all sorts of things, right? You just want it to create as many ideas for you as possible. The more ideas you have, the more things you can tick off as ones you don't want to use, and the more good ideas that you have at the end, right? Bear in mind, all of this stuff used to take you hours and hours of research and finding, where it now takes seconds in ChatGPT. And all you want to do is formulate this into tables or sheets and make sure that you're going through and picking the best ideas and removing the ones that aren't going to be generating you the best outputs. And then have it find examples for you. So this isn't just limited to digital PR, right? You can use it for researching offers, researching e-commerce products, researching affiliate offers, researching lead generation offers, researching all sorts of things. You can use it for link building ideas. You can use it for new niches or new trends. You can use it for new business ideas. You could even use it for, like I said earlier, better pitching, showing clients more information about their business, more information about their competitors, ideas for creating content marketing campaigns, ideas for SEO campaigns, ideas for digital PR campaigns. All of this kind of stuff is going to be leading you to these pitches, which are action-packed with stuff that the average agency is going to be creating, you know, a 2 to 8 page document. You're now going to have a 50-page custom document with everything going to be able to go through, sales pitch through the roof, email through the roof, clients really impressed, the whole shebang. And that's why I absolutely love this style of marketing, and I think that it's only going to increase as AI tools get better and the outputs from those AI tools get better as well, and automation itself gets better. So I think that if you are just finding out about this stuff, jump in head first, start using it, seeing how far you can get, how effective you can be with it, and I guarantee you that in 6 months from now, this is going to be the most effective type of marketing you're going to be doing. Thank you for joining us. I hope I whet your appetite for what's about to come, because I'm only starting today, and I think there are some absolutely insane presentations today from some speakers that I've hand vetted, and I've made sure that every presentation is delivering something unique, something of value, and that you're going to be getting a lot out of it. Like I said already, there'll be recordings available in the WhatsApp group, so make sure to check the email that you got for SEO Stream and join the WhatsApp group in there. I know there were some people having issues with the join link. I apologize. If you are having issues, join the WhatsApp group. Just just reply to that email and either myself or Yudish will get back to you as soon as possible. And I hope to see you in Dubai in 2024 in February, because we're going to be hosting SEO Vibes Dubai at the 5 Hotel with one of the world's biggest super yachts for our opening party. I'll see you soon, and thank you. Up next will be Josh George, so stay tuned.